Welcome to US Soccer's online training for the Grade 8 referee course. Training for this course is specific to preparing officials for the competitive youth game. This presentation focuses on Law 12, Fouls and Misconduct. The Law 12 presentation is separated into two sections. The first part provides information on fouls, and the second section specifically deals with misconduct. Part 1, Fouls. The following conditions must be met for an offense to be considered a foul. It must be committed by a player, it must occur on the field of play, and it must occur while the ball is in play. There are two types of fouls, and each type reflects the kind of restart used. A direct free kick is awarded if one of the 10 direct free kick fouls are committed, and a goal can be scored directly from the taking of the restart. An indirect free kick is awarded if a player commits one of the 8 indirect free kick fouls. The ball must be touched by another player before a goal can be scored from an indirect free kick. The first category of fouls is direct free kick fouls. There are 10 direct free kick fouls, and the first 7 are awarded to the opposing team if a player commits any of the following offenses in a manner considered by the referee to be careless, reckless, or using excessive force. Kicking or attempting to kick, tripping or attempting to trip, jumping at an opponent, charging. The act of charging is a challenge for space using physical contact within playing distance of the ball without using arms or elbows. Striking or attempting to strike. Striking can be performed by direct contact using hands, arms, elbows, head, or knees, or by throwing any object, including the ball. Striking as a foul occurs where contact is made with the opponent or where contact would have been made if the attempt to strike is unsuccessful. Pushing and tackling. It is important to distinguish between the terms careless, reckless, and excessive force when discussing the first 7 direct free kick fouls. Careless means that the player has shown a lack of attention or consideration when making a challenge, or that he or she has acted without precaution. No further disciplinary sanction is needed if a foul is judged to be careless. Note that all instances of kicking, striking, or attempting to do either should be considered as careless at a minimum. Kicking and striking fouls are more likely to be reckless or using excessive force than careless, so referees should be mindful of this when dealing with fouls of this nature. Reckless means that a player has acted with disregard to the danger to or consequences for his or her opponent. A player who plays in a reckless manner must be cautioned and shown a yellow card. Using excessive force means that the player has far exceeded the necessary use of force, is in danger of injuring his or her opponent, or has acted without regard for the opponent's safety. A player who uses excessive force must be sent off and shown a red card. The remaining 3 direct free kick fouls do not have the careless, reckless, or excessive force criteria, as seen with the first 7. A direct free kick is awarded to the opposing team if a player commits any of the following 3 offenses. Handling the ball involves a deliberate act of a player making contact with the ball with his or her hand or arm. The referee should take the following factors into consideration to help determine if the handling offense was deliberate: the movement of the hand towards the ball, not the ball towards the hand, the distance between the opponent and the ball. The position of the hand does not necessarily mean that there is an infringement. Touching the ball with an object held in the hand counts as an infringement. Lastly, hitting the ball with a thrown object also counts as an infringement. A direct free kick is taken from the place where the offense occurred, with 2 exceptions. A direct free kick that is awarded in the team's own goal area may be taken from any point inside the goal area. A penalty kick is awarded if any of the 10 direct free kick fouls are committed by a player inside his or her own penalty area, regardless of the position of the ball, provided it is in play. Note that if a player strikes someone by throwing an object, the location of the foul is where the person was struck, not the location of the person that threw the object. Indirect free kick fouls are also separated into 2 groups. There are 4 fouls that can only be committed by a goalkeeper, and 3 indirect free kick fouls which can be committed by any player, including the goalkeeper. An additional offense that is not a foul, but for which an indirect free kick is given, is when misconduct has been committed without a foul. An indirect free kick is awarded to the opposing team if, in the opinion of the referee, a player does the following. Playing dangerously. An action is considered dangerous play when an opponent is adversely or unfairly affected, usually by the opponent ceasing to challenge for the ball in order to avoid receiving or causing injury as a result of the action. When determining dangerous play, referees should also take into account the experience and skill level of the players. Competitive youth players who are more skilled and experienced may be more likely to accept the danger of an act and continue playing, compared to younger players at the small-sided and recreational level. Impeding the progress of an opponent. This means that a player has moved to obstruct or interfere the path of an opponent. Impeding also requires that the ball not be within playing distance, and physical contact between the players is normally absent. In these cases, physical contact often results in an offense punishable by a direct free kick being committed by one of the players. Preventing the goalkeeper from releasing the ball with his or her hands. This also includes interfering with the goalkeeper who is punting or drop kicking the ball. If play is stopped solely for misconduct, for which a yellow or red card will be given, the restart is an indirect free kick, provided the misconduct was committed by a player on the field during play. The second group of indirect free kick fouls are specific to the goalkeeper and include controlling the ball with his or her hands for more than 6 seconds, touching the ball again with his or her hands after releasing it before the ball has touched another player, touching the ball with his or her hands after it has been deliberately kicked by a teammate, and touching the ball with his or her hands after receiving it directly from a throw-in by a teammate. An indirect free kick is taken from the place where the offense occurred, but there are a few exceptions. An indirect free kick that is awarded in the defensive goal area may be taken from any point inside the goal area. An indirect free kick that is awarded to the attackers inside the opposing team's goal area must be taken on the goal area line parallel to the goal line at the point nearest to where the infringement occurred. Part 2. Misconduct. Unlike the specific requirements for a foul, misconduct can occur at any time, including before and after the game, on or off the field, while the ball is in play or not, committed by persons other than players, and not necessarily against opponents. The referee has the authority to take action against players guilty of misconduct. The referee's authority to take disciplinary sanctions begins the moment he or she arrives at the field of play until he or she leaves. The yellow card is used to communicate that a player or substitute has been cautioned, and the red card is used to communicate that a player or substitute has been sent off. Note that only a player or substitute may be shown a yellow or red card. All cautions issued to players are categorized in one of 7 ways. And a good way for officials to remember the 7 cautionable offenses is with the acronym FED UP. A player is cautioned and shown a yellow card if he or she commits any of the following 7 offenses. The first cautionable offense is failure to respect the required distance when play is restarted with a corner kick, free kick, or throw-in. Referees and assistant referees should be proactive during these situations by having a presence and being vocal if needed. For example, verbally telling the defenders to move back can often prevent a caution from being issued. Referees, however, should not interfere with the team's desire to take a quick restart. A player is cautioned if he or she re-enters the field without permission from the referee. This can happen at the start of play if a player arrives late, or during play if the player is off the field to correct an equipment issue or receive medical treatment. If, after leaving the field of play, a player re-enters the field without the referee's permission, the referee must caution the player. A player who is guilty of dissent by protesting verbally or non-verbally against a referee's decision must be cautioned. Any verbal or nonverbal action that disputes the decisions by the referee, assistant referees, or fourth official is considered dissent. Referees should always deal with dissent because it questions the authority of the referee, impacts the flow of the game, and reduces the enjoyment of other participants and spectators. It can also potentially lead to bigger problems if not dealt with. Please note that team captains have no special status or privileges under the laws of the game, but they do have a degree of responsibility for the behavior of their teammates. Because of this, referees can be proactive and work with team captains to set firm expectations that dissent will not be tolerated. Referees must caution players who delay the restart of play. Some of the more common tactics used to delay the restart at the competitive youth level include taking a free kick from the wrong position with the sole intention of forcing the referee to order a retake, kicking the ball away or carrying it away after the referee has stopped play, excessively delaying the taking of a throw-in or free kick, or appearing to take the restart, but then suddenly leaving it to a teammate to take, delaying leaving the field of play when being substituted, or provoking a confrontation by deliberately touching the ball after the referee has stopped play. In this case, deliberately touching refers to when a player is attempting to control the ball when the restart belongs to the opponents, who are also attempting to possess the ball. Players who leave the field without the referee's permission can do so for unsporting reasons. For example, to create an unfair offside situation. If this happens, the player should still be considered to be on the field, and the referee should allow play to continue so as not to take the advantage away from the attacking team. A player who deliberately left the field without the referee's permission should be cautioned at the next stoppage. If a player does leave the field for some other reason without the referee's permission, and this results in gaining a tactical advantage for his or her team, the player has committed misconduct and must be cautioned and shown a yellow card. When it is apparent to the referee that the player leaving the field without permission has not done so to express dissent or to gain an unfair advantage, the referee can consider this to be a trifling breach of the laws of the game. Some examples of this might include leaving the field to change shoes, replacing a damaged jersey, or drinking water during a stoppage. A verbal warning to the player should be sufficient in such circumstances. If this behavior persists, then the referee can issue a caution as needed. There are a number of examples of unsporting behavior, and they can include committing one of the direct free kick fouls in a reckless manner, committing a foul for the tactical purpose of interfering with or breaking up a promising attack, holding an opponent for the tactical purpose of pulling the opponent away from the ball or preventing the opponent from getting to the ball, handling the ball to prevent an opponent from gaining possession or developing an attack, whether successful or not, handling the ball in an attempt to score a goal, and committing simulation by attempting to deceive the referee by faking injury or pretending to have been fouled. Here are some more examples of unsporting behavior. Changing places with the goalkeeper during play or without the referee's permission, acting in a manner which shows a lack of respect for the game, playing the ball when he or she is walking off the field of play after being granted permission to leave the field, verbally distracting an opponent during play or at a restart, making unauthorized marks on the field of play, and using a deliberate trick to pass the ball to his or her own goalkeeper with the head, chest, knee, etc., in order to circumvent the law, irrespective of whether the goalkeeper touches the ball or not. In addition, there are certain goal-scoring celebrations that are also cautionable offenses. While it is permissible for a player to demonstrate his or her joy when a goal has been scored, the celebration must not be excessive. Reasonable celebrations are allowed, but the practice of choreographed celebrations should not be tolerated when it results in excessive time wasting, and referees are instructed to intervene in such cases. A player must be cautioned if, in the opinion of the referee, he or she commits any of the following: makes gestures which are provocative or inflammatory, carries the celebration into and among spectators, removes his or her shirt or covers the head with the shirt, or covers his or her head or face with a mask or similar item. Leaving the field of play to celebrate a goal is not a cautionable offense in itself, but it is essential that players return to the field as soon as possible. Referees are expected to act in a preventative manner and be practical when dealing with the celebration of a goal. Referees should be alert at all times to players who persistently infringe the laws of the game. In particular, they must be aware that even if a player commits a number of different offenses, he or she must still be cautioned for persistent infringement. Because there is no specific number of infringements that defines persistent or the presence of a pattern, the referee should warn a player who appears to be heading toward this form of misconduct. Once warned, that player should be cautioned if he or she soon thereafter commits another foul. This is entirely a matter of judgment and must be determined in the context of effective game management. Of the 7 reasons to caution a player, there are only 3 that apply to substitutes. A good way for officials to remember the 3 cautionable offenses for substitutes is with the acronym DUD. A substitute is cautioned if he or she commits any of the following 3 offenses: dissent by word or action, unsporting behavior, and delaying the restart of play. There are 7 reasons to send off players or substitutes. According to the laws of the game, a player or substitute who has been sent off must leave the vicinity of the field of play and the technical area. However, some leagues and events may allow sent off individuals to remain at the field, so it's important for referees to know the local rules of competition. If this issue is not addressed by the local rules of competition, U.S. Soccer recommends that referees allow youth players to remain with their team to be supervised by an adult team official, so long as they act in a responsible manner. In order to issue a red card for serious foul play, all of the criteria associated with a foul must be present. This means that it must be committed by a player, against an opponent, on the field, and while the ball is in play. If any of these criteria have not been met, that doesn't mean that a red card isn't justified. It just means that the misconduct would be reported for another reason. A player is guilty of serious foul play if he or she uses excessive force or brutality against an opponent when challenging for the ball when it is in play. A tackle that endangers the safety of an opponent must also be sanctioned as serious foul play. Any player who lunges at an opponent in challenging for the ball from the front, from the side, or from behind using one or both legs with excessive force and endangering the safety of an opponent is guilty of serious foul play. Advantage should not be applied in situations involving serious foul play unless there is a clear opportunity to immediately score a goal. In this case, the referee must send off the player guilty of serious foul play when the ball is next out of play. A player who is guilty of serious foul play should be sent off and play restarted with a direct free kick from the position where the offense occurred, or a penalty kick if the offense occurred inside the offender's penalty area. A player is guilty of violent conduct if he or she uses excessive force, brutality, or violence under any circumstances other than serious foul play against anyone at any time with the ball in or out of play or on or off the field. Advantage should not be applied in situations involving violent conduct unless there is a clear opportunity to immediately score a goal. In this rare occurrence, the referee must then send off the guilty player of violent conduct when the ball is next out of play. Referees are reminded that violent conduct can lead to mass confrontation and other problems. Therefore, referees must be proactive and timely when dealing with violent conduct send-offs. The next sending off offense is using offensive, insulting, or abusive language and/or gestures. The referee should judge offensive, insulting, or abusive language according to the specific words or actions used, the extent to which the language can be heard by others beyond the immediate vicinity of the player, and whether the language is directed at officials, opponents, or teammates. In other words, the referee must recognize language that is personal, public, and/or provocative. In evaluating language as misconduct, the referee must take into account the particular circumstances in which the actions occurred and deal reasonably with the language that was clearly the result of a momentary emotional outburst, so long as it's not directed at other players. Referees should not inject their personal opinions as to the nature of the language when determining a course of action, and should adopt a zero-tolerance policy for any language that is discriminatory or racist in nature. Spitting at an opponent or any other person is another sending off offense. Spitting at an opponent is also listed as a direct free kick foul, provided all of the criteria associated with a foul are present. If the instance of spitting does not meet the criteria to be a foul, the referee can still send off the player because this is misconduct punishable by a red card. There are 2 sending off offenses that deal with denying an opponent an obvious opportunity to score a goal. Denying the opposing team a goal, or an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, by deliberately handling the ball as the first. In order for a player or substitute to be sent off for denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by an offense punishable by a free kick or a penalty kick, 4 elements must be present. The number of defenders, not more than 1 defender, between the foul and the goal, not counting the defender who committed the foul. Distance to the goal. The closer the foul is to the goal, the more likely it is an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. Distance to ball. The attacker must have been close enough to the ball at the time of the foul to continue playing the ball. And direction of play. The attacker must have been moving toward the goal at the time the foul was committed. If any element is missing, there can be no send-off for denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. Further, the presence of each of these elements must be deemed by the referee as obvious in order for the send-off to be appropriate. A player or substitute who receives a second caution must first be shown the yellow card for the second caution, and then shown the red card for the sending off offense. The second caution leading to the dismissal from the field can occur at any time during the match, including the halftime interval, additional periods of play, and kicks from the penalty mark. The two cautions can be received at any time, including before, during, or after the match. In some cases, two cautions can also be issued during the same stoppage. The accepted procedure is to display the cards in sequence, not at the same time. In addition to knowing what action should result in misconduct, referees must also know how to restart play after issuing a card. If play was stopped solely to deal with misconduct committed on the field of play, the proper restart is an indirect free kick from the location of the misconduct. If play was stopped for a foul and the referee decided to issue a card for misconduct, play is resumed according to the type of foul committed. If misconduct occurs during a stoppage, the restart is determined by the original reason for the stoppage. If a player has left the field during the normal course of play and commits misconduct, play is restarted with a drop ball from the location of the ball when play was stopped. If a player leaves the field for the purpose of committing misconduct, play is resumed with an indirect free kick from the location of the ball when play was stopped. And if play is stopped to deal with misconduct committed off the field of play by a substitute or substituted player, play is restarted with a drop ball from the location of the ball when play was stopped. Please answer the following review questions to complete the online training. All questions must be answered correctly for the completion criteria to be met for this presentation. Additional instructions and information will be provided after the review questions, so please carefully read and listen to the conclusion screen. Before closing the presentation, please be sure that the completion criteria prompt at the top right of the page has turned from red to green. If the prompt is green, you can click here to download or print a certificate of completion if required by your state referee association. Please note that the option to print depends on your web browser, and the certificate can appear as a pop-up depending on your filters. If the prompt is still red, it means that you have either not viewed all of the slides or you have incorrectly answered review questions. Please remember that you are required to answer each review question correctly in order to complete the presentation. If you answered a question incorrectly, you will need to exit this presentation and start over by reopening the presentation from the landing page at ussoccer.com. The system is designed to not remember your activity, but your browser settings may have retained your work and require you to erase your browsing history to re-answer any missed review questions. To continue learning, simply close this window and select the next presentation.